Welcome back to another episode of Control the Chaos Mama podcast. My name is Angel McElhaney, and I am going to share with you 6 steps to go from really the hard stuff, the trials, the things that knock you down, the things that take your breath away, that make you cry in the shower, that seem to be that you can't get past probably the next day, minute, whatever, to that next right step, all the way to post-stress growth or post-traumatic growth. This podcast is a lot about making meaning of your hard stuff so that you can make change in the world, but also just being able to get on the other side of what is trying to knock you down. Don't worry, that's not the title. It'll probably be like 6 steps to post-stress growth or something. All right, let's go. All right, so let's get all into it. Basically, you have to know where you are and where you're starting from. And so a lot of this can happen with knowing what the negative cycle is. So all of us, every single person on your social media, highlight reel, even the people that seem super happy, that greet you as you walk in the door, everyone is dealing with stuff. I think, first of all, if we can realize that, we will become way more kind. We will stop hiding behind our computers to kind of lash out at people, and we will really have more compassion. So what is your negative cycle? So whenever something happens and you are given some sort of conflict, like, do you withdraw? Do you lash out in anger? Do you spiral? What is your specific cycle? Because once you can identify where you are in this, are you creating emotional distance? Are you seeking help? If then you can kind of figure out what the emotions are, what the emotions are, and start to kind of share those or rewrite the stories that your thoughts are creating in your mind, and use that as fuel to kind of pull you to more of a positive cycle. And then once you know, then you have to kind of take inventory, or step 2, kind of this self-discovery process of figuring out what is it is that you expected to happen or assumed would happen, and what went wrong. And so what this can look like is, for instance, with my mom, I assumed my mom would be here to watch my kids and help me and to be an ear to lean on when I needed her. I had these expectations. And so a lot of times our despair or our conflict will come from unmet expectations that come in the form of just what we expect in our lives, or really even our beliefs. So when you're looking at that, what shattered assumptions do you have? What expectations did you have that just you thought something was going to be one way and it turned out another? Or obviously it's kind of an inventory on what you need to, what is fueling you up, what is depleting you, and what is affecting you, because it's kind of a gut check. And next is kind of an inner, I guess it is really the gut check, but looking at how this is affecting you. I think we have, especially I do as an ADHD entrepreneur, this need to go past things. I want to just get on the other side of it. I remember after I lost my mom, my aunt was like, I just feel like we should give ourselves some grace and let ourselves heal, And the thing is I wanted to get to the post-stress growth so much, so quickly, that I was not too easy on myself. I was consuming all the podcasts, all the self-help books. I was, and this was part of my process, but it was also very triggering. I wanted to do all the things that to make my mom proud and to use that. And it's kind of giving yourself some permission to grieve or process the trauma or the hard stuff that you're going through. So that could be something that you definitely could get help with through some sort of counselor. I recently have discovered emotionally focused therapy. They do it for individuals, for couples, and you can check that out wherever you are, or just to have this normalization of talking to someone, whether it's a friend, whether it's a licensed therapist, something to where you can have that connection, but also be able to talk about it. Because when you have a lot of these emotions, if you can wrap words around them, then it will make it to where they don't have as much power over you, or that you can work through them versus stuffing them down. All right. And then next is the meaning. So this is where you try to figure out if this can be a opportunity to kind of reposition that footing and kind of propel even farther and better than before, or if you will let it shatter you. And so this is the part that I feel like is very pivotal in someone becoming a victim or a victor. And everyone has the opportunity, I believe, to do this part. And this is where you are probably leaning back to help someone who was in your shoes. You might be able to have more confidence to know that you can get through hard things in the future. You might be able to have a better for instance, you might be able to be a better person or mom to your kids if you know the importance, or you might not take for granted your in-laws if you lost your mom, or even in your relationships, you might be able to, like if you had a conflict there, like you could reinvest and come out even stronger. And so this is where you are using your hard stuff to make meaning out in the world. I mean, it could mean that you do a podcast. It could mean that you, create something that you needed in those like dark times or hard trials. And then next, I believe this is one that's a lot overlooked. And this is probably a lot to do with, okay, I'm an 8. I don't like vulnerability. I don't like necessarily putting myself out there. I mean, it's funny because I show up here and I show up on my stories all the time over on Angel.McElhaney and all the places. But there is some need for forgiveness in the situation for whatever happened. And so depending on the unique situation, like I remember feeling like, and I know I keep using the example of my mom passing away, but some people, like I felt abandoned, and it was almost like I had to even forgive her for leaving me, or and I had forgiveness for my dad for the situation all around that. You know what I mean? It's like chances are we take our hurt or our sadness and we mask those with other emotions like anger and things like that, or shame and stuff. And so what this does is it helps you to look at the whole situation almost like a big picture so that you can lower walls and let people in to help you and let yourself be vulnerable. That part's scary, not gonna lie, but then you can get to the post-stress growth, and that is where you can see something that is better, or that has turned around, or that has helped someone, or has caused you some growth, some change that has been positive through the pain or the loss or the hard thing. And so I hope this episode was helpful for you. If you are in a negative cycle, I think self-awareness is going to be your first step to kind of figure that out. Your needs matter. And so whatever it means that you need to get help or to get your needs met or come across, just know that they are valid and valued, and that what you feel is not wrong. This can be helpful to also just like process them. You could get an app like Cocoon Weaver or something like that to just verbally process. You could also write in a journal, talk to someone. But I think this process of figuring out like where you are, how you feel, almost like a body scan, like we've mentioned before in past episodes, and kind of assessing, like there's a reason why you feel this way, and then that way you can kind of make new moves. It's kind of like, what are your old moves that you kind of go into automatically, and where do you have to course correct? And of course, you're going to be more likely to follow through on course corrections whenever you have accountability, someone there to be able to come alongside of you in that process, and also safety. Definitely look into EFT if you're looking for ways to kind of be able to do more of an emotional focus therapy, as well as I'm sure there's plenty of others that could be helpful too. But I hope this is helpful for you to kind of gain some control back whenever life hits the fan, whenever things get thrown at you that are hard, that are maybe even triggering your emotional regulation if you are ADHD. And so that way you can kind of feel like, okay, here I am, here's what I want, and here is how I get to the next right step. Wishing you joy and abundance, Angel.